Now, so Jackie Hill Perry strikes again, and I just can't wait to hear what the ladies got to say about it. Here we go.
Are you ready to resist the devil until the day you die? Are you committed to putting to death what is earthly in you until the day you die? Are you content with not getting everything you want and scratching every itch and living with unsatisfied desires until the day you die? If you are, then welcome to Christianity. I think that's what this generation needs to hear. That Christianity is a faith that involves suffering. Christianity is a death sentence. Jesus said, if anyone will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me.
I thought Jesus died so we didn't have to. I mean, I'm not even saying I totally subscribe to that theology, but that's what I was taught. I take such issue with her entire ministry. Like everything about her ministry bothers me. And one of the reasons it bothers me is because she will mix in sensible commentary with the BS, right? Because on the surface, in life, you don't get everything you want. That's a real like sensible statement. You don't get everything you want in life. So when she throws stuff like that out there, it's like, oh yeah. But if you don't understand what undergirds the statements, if you don't understand the theological framework from which everything grows, then you can get lost in some of those surface level statements. And she's just feeding you poison. She's just feeding you poison. It's straight poison. What y'all think?
One thing I really appreciate about you, Kristian, and just TFC in general is that we are tasked with ascertaining where information is coming from. Yeah. And now that I know, I mean, I already knew Jackie was a repressed lesbian. Like, that's her choice. That's her call in her mind. That's her suffering. And that's why she can make statements like that, because she is suffering. She's denying the fullness of the existence of who she is in terms of how God made her fearfully and wonderfully in all parts of her, including her sexuality, which she will not accept. But she's from John Piper's side of Christianity. So now that I know where her theological underpinnings come, where her, she didn't go to seminary, but where her training is coming from, where her life experience is coming from, I don't even take anything that she says seriously, nor do I take anybody in that camp seriously. It's really like an identifier. You're over there because you worship white Jesus, the white Jesus who is responsible for oppressing people, colonization, white supremacy, classism, all of the evils that we are struggling to be free from and find liberation from. She's comfortable in that lane because they pay her bag. So she's comfortable being a token. She's comfortable being a scapegoat. We are actually choosing this greatest commandment way and not fueling the ministry of these people. Because all of our clicks, all of our, oh, look at this bitch. Every time we do that, we are putting money in her pocket. So I definitely do my best to avoid Jackie Hill Perry and avoid contributing to her self-loathing, because I honestly, deeply, I fear for that girl. I fear for her mental health, because you can only hate yourself and preach hate for so long before your mind is lost. And I say that as a such was I person. I definitely agree with Celeste. I definitely think it's a misery kink. I definitely think that when we look at Q plus people in the church who choose to remain in ministry, their suffering becomes a badge of honor. It's kind of like what Paul was talking about with the closeted mothers. Yeah, you think you have this extra portion of anointing because you've suffered well. No, that is not even right. Like, that is something that you've been indoctrinated to believe, and something you convinced yourself is correct. But there is another way, because right now, them are operating in a way that they believe is right to a man. But baby, everything that they say, they gaslight us into believing that we are spiritually dead and unable to hear the spirit. No, baby, we hear clearly, because we're committed to doing our work and not projecting misery on everybody. And that is why we're going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to have a different option for people who want to have a relationship with the God of their understanding, the God of their gut, and not have to walk around in this misery But when I think about how long I was repressed and how long I chose to be in that, I could be her. I could have been married to some nigga making babies just because I wanted to be in ministry. And I can't imagine what's going on in that head besides let me continue to hammer on these points and prove that I believe them so I can be worthy of this high calling. That's what I believe is going on with her. And I'm not going to be a fan, but I'm also coming off of my condemnation because I get it a little bit now. I get it. It's hard to be courageous and choose liberation. It's hard to unravel your indoctrination. It's hard to question everything you've been taught. But somebody got to do it because we got to get free.
As you were talking, I was thinking about how I grew up in a bubble of a faith community, and it was guided by really strict rules. And what happened was, I can think of instances as a teenager where my friends, for example, had a mom that policed everything they did. She was a helicopter parent. She hovered, she checked, she popped up. And I'm not talking about healthy, I'm talking about regular, ordinary stuff. So, what happened to them as we grew up and we went into teenage, ages, they started policing their peers. So, they started policing us the way their mama policed them. And that is what I think of when I watch Jackie Hill Perry. It's like, this is the sacrifice that you have made. This is what you have decided you're going to do. And because you're miserable, you are projecting that onto the rest of us. So it's like, if I got to be in the house by the time the street lights come on, then y'all need to be in the house by the time the street lights come on. If I can't go to prom because it's sinful, then prom altogether is sinful. If I can't love who I want to love, then loving who you want to love and following your nature is sinful altogether. I told Kristian earlier today, there was a feeling that this is the first time I've ever felt empathy for her. I've ever felt that feeling of, you have decided that this is the right thing for you to do, but you don't want to do it by yourself. And I felt bad for her for just a split second. There's a certain type of policing, almost like enslavement. Actually, it's just like enslavement. When we go back and we look at slave movies and trauma movies about slavery, there's always house people. There's a certain amount of yourself, there's a certain amount of your humanity that you have to leave behind, that you have to ignore, that you have to push to the side and suppress if you are going to be that person. If you're going to be the mouthpiece, you can't be all of yourself. And if you can't be all of yourself, you're going to be miserable. And if you're going to be miserable, you don't want to be miserable by yourself. So you're going to invite people to be miserable with you.
I appreciate that you have empathy for her, like you and Autumn. I appreciate that. I don't personally, because I know she's getting paid to do this. And I'm not saying that y'all shouldn't. Maybe I should. This isn't a like character judgment here. Like the magnitude of the damage that she's doing under the guise of following Christ, it eats me up. And I think that part of that might be because of like the position that I have and the work that I do and knowing how it impacts the people that I'm called to serve. Like, I
think that makes sense. I think that makes sense considering your position. I think for me, I think about it from the perspective as a therapist. I also think about it from the perspective of somebody who came from a really strict rule-keeping religion. And a lot of times we will align ourselves with things that we don't believe. We will align ourselves with things that suppress us because we also are the target market. Jackie Hill Perry is also the target market she preaches to. So she's talking to herself as she talks to us. I understand what it's like to be under leadership and do some shit you really don't believe in, but because they've convinced you that this is the only way that you can live again, you'll perpetuate it.
Yeah.
And it may come off as believable while you go home and do what you really want to do. So I don't, my empathy for her is compartmentalized because harm is harm. But I also understand that a lot of hurt people,
Yeah.
especially when they don't understand that what they're doing is harmful. I'm not excusing her, but
I think you were.
I'm taking what she's doing and I'm putting it on all of us. I'm making it very general.
Mhm.
So whatever we've been taught a lot of times, when we've been groomed, when we don't want to disappoint people, when we've been grown up to people please, we will perpetuate the thing that's harmful, even though it's harming us.
I think Filet's question is also good. Like, does she really believe what she's actually talking about? That is definitely a question, right? Does she really believe it? Is she really living it? We don't know. We know what she has said publicly, what has been shared, but and there's all this speculation and everything, but her private life is her private life. I don't know if there's something that she's doing that doesn't align with what she's preaching, then what's done in the dark will eventually come to light, and I guess we'll figure that out.
There are power structures in play that she needs to be held accountable for. Like, when you're someone who has a platform, are you going to, like a politician, are you going to take APAC money? Now that you know what it is, are you going to take it? Well, you're going to take it. You're complicit. So that's why I say it doesn't matter to me what she's doing in the dark, because I know what I was doing, baby. I was the most fervent homophobe. I say this all the time. I was writing dissertations about lying with another man while lying with a bitch. Like, so I don't, she probably is. I think it's funny. I'm like, yeah, girl, go get that girl. Get your sis, get your good best friend. Because all of my best friends were my secret girlfriends. And that's what they do in church. That's why I say church gay is the worst gay. She's already in hell right now. So I don't care about nobody hell she's preaching. The misery on her countenance, in her body language, and every single thing that she preaches or teaches is hell. Jackie Hill.
It's
Jackie
full
Jackie Hill Perry.
It's full on, I'm in misery, come join me. That's what I think. Every time I hear her, I be thinking, especially today, I was thinking, girl, you preaching about yourself. Leave me out of it. Leave us out of it. You are talking about you. You're talking about your hell. You're talking about your suffering. You're talking about your pain. You're talking about unfulfilled desires that you have. Please stop making this about all of us, because this ain't about all of us.
I just want to make sure we're clear, like theologically. In order for Jackie Hill Perry's rhetoric to have impact on you, you have to first believe that there is something inherently wrong with your humanity. We challenge people to interrogate that belief at the faith community. So if you come here and you still have the belief that something is inherently wrong with your humanity, she said, are you going to cast away everything earthly? The word choice is very, very specific. Why earthly? Like, what do you mean earthly? I mean, she's talking about your humanity, because that's what she's had to sacrifice. So in order for her rhetoric to be effective in messing with your mind, you first have to believe that something is inherently wrong with your humanity. And you also have to believe that in order for you to receive God's grace, God's goodness, God's love, in order to have communion with God, you need to suppress, deny, and do everything to push against the parts of your humanity that you have been told are inherently bad. You have to buy into that to a certain extent, because everything is built on top of that. Like, she comes from a space of reformed theology built on human depravity. If you ever want to research theology, look up human depravity and just follow the breadcrumbs, because that's what it's rooted in. Like, humanity is terrible. There's nothing good about it. The only thing good that comes from humanity is what God does. So nothing is about you, what makes you come alive in her theological framework. So even when she does talk about something being good for you, it's always through the lens of because God said so. Because God said so. because you got to do it through God. So it detaches you from your own humanity and makes you dependent on an external entity that she defines for you. Her preaching defines how that God shows up in your life while you can't even be attached to yourself. So I want us to make sure we continue to remember the theology that undergirds the sound bites that we hear. So even when she says something that kind of makes sense, remember it's undergirded by human depravity. Ain't shit good about you. The only thing good about you is God. And God is outside of you. Not the God in your gut, but the external entity that she defines for you, that the dogma defines for you. Go ahead, Rich Auntie. If you're still here, hit the subscribe button and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the video. And if you want to see the entire recording, it's exclusively available in our Patreon. The link is in the show notes. You can either subscribe or you can just purchase this recording a la carte. We'll see you next time as we continue to deconstruct harmful theology and build beloved community. Peace out.